Let me tell you guys about Belly Up Sports. Belly Up Sports is the internet sports bar. Go ahead and check out their website, www.bellyupsports.com, to read some great articles from great writers all across the country, from hockey, baseball, golf, soccer, you name it. Belly Up Sports is the premier, not your average website.
USL potentially adding a tier system to soccer, trying to rival MLS. So that's going to put a lot of focus on the MLS to do right this year. This is their 30th year anniversary. So they got to do something right? This is like, you have new players coming in. You have a new team in San Diego coming in. You have teams lined up to come in like Sacramento next year. And there's a lot riding on the fact that on top of all of this, you still have Messi in the league. You still have the Club World Cup coming up this year. And there's a lot to just like all around focus on for the MLS, but it is a chance to highlight how good the product can be from the MLS throughout the season. It is important for American soccer, as we've learned through that clip that goes viral, the impression that American soccer and American fans give to put the best foot forward for American soccer and for MLS is going to be the goal, because you don't want to be looked at as the fool of the footballing nation, footballing world, if you will, anymore. And we've seen countries that have no foothold in a league standing put on a great World Cup, which is something on the horizon for American soccer next year. And it starts with some kind of impression beforehand. That means the Club World Cup is a huge piece of this. So yeah, there's a lot riding on this season for the MLS. I think it's a big focus, and I think the USL is adding more pressure to it by adding in the conversation of putting a new league in, putting the USL Pro League in, and then now having a tier system. So now the MLS, who has been long against the tier system, has to prove that they are still the best product out there, and they have to prove it without a doubt. And that's the thing that's going to be the most focused for the MLS for me for looking at this season. I think there's a lot of fun things happening in the MLS this year, but I think it gets put under a microscope when you consider all the other changes that are happening for American club soccer right now, and the microscope that's being put on the U.S. from the world as you're approaching the World Cup. So now there's a lot of conversations happening there. So yeah, the MLS has a lot of pressure this year, and it needs to do well. That's just a fact.
And I think we'll start things off with the USL. I think that's a very fair conversation to have, because with USL now announcing that by the way, they already had this promotion relegation system already implemented. It's just now they're
including everybody.
They're flexing that the USL is a Division 1 league, which obviously everybody feels that or at least people believe MLS is the Division 1 league, but they're closed, and to prove it differently, I think many people will still believe that MLS is the first division. But I think what USL has done is kind of, I guess, in some sense, put their nuts on the table to say, hey, you guys argue that no one is going to like this promotion relegation way in America. And we're here to tell you that people are very much for promotion relegation. And we know that there is many people who would love to see promotion relegation done here in the US. Am I one of those people? I've said it plenty of times. I think that there is going to be a day where we will finally see promotion relegation. I am also one of those people that wants promotion relegation in the US. Do I think now is the time? No, because once again, the problem, and here's the part that I want people to understand, is MLS is wanting to try to convert Americans into American soccer. Yes, we already have people that love soccer, love football. Yes, there's those people that don't like. I mean, Kelcey and I have mentioned that we were not necessarily initially MLS guys. We were more European, or for my case, Liga MX guys. Like this was what we preferred watching. We viewed that as the better product. And then, eventually we saw the improvement that MLS has done. They're nowhere near Europe, by the way. I'm not here to tell you that they're competing with Europe.
Not the top tiers for sure.
But it has improved. So I'll continue to defend MLS as long as I continue to see progression. And
Yeah.
as far as I can see, there still has been progression. For the people that complain about the playoff format, I'm gonna just tell you, just playoffs is gonna stay as long as it's an American thing. And by the way, Liga MX also has a playoff format, so it's not just an American thing. Belgium does have a postseason. It's not a playoff format, but there is a postseason in some aspect to it. Even though it's still kind of familiar territory, the way they do it, but still, so it's not like where MLS is doing anything differently. It's just a playoff format that people try to find an argument. People throw out the playoff, and I still get comments to this day about how we can't take MLS seriously because of a playoff format. And then I argue, what about Liga MX? And well, that's different. It's not different. They're also closed, by the way. They don't have a promotion relegation in Liga MX as well. Just want to throw that out. And yes, I do think that's BS as well. So don't. I'm not trying to show you. I'm very thorough. But anyways, my whole point with USL though is if they can show that there will be fans still, regardless of what level they play in, because that is a valid argument. I will say people support their home club better than people do here in the U.S. And yes, the U.S. can be very fickle. I don't want anybody to tell me differently, because we've seen teams that have been very good and then eventually dip down, and we see empty stadiums. As a matter of fact, as an Astros fan, I can tell you blatantly how sometimes I do miss paying $50 and sitting behind a bullpen. I'm just gonna point that out because there are days that I do miss that it was easily accessible for me to go watch a baseball game, if it wasn't the Yankees or Boston Red Sox, and the Dodgers. But look now all of a sudden everybody's an Astros fan. So I think I don't know, Kelcey, if you want to argue with me on that, but there has been proof when you're terrible, people ain't going to your games. When you're good, all of a sudden everybody's a fan. I can't wait for the day when Sacramento is a good basketball team again,
Yeah.
because then all of a sudden everybody is gonna be like, yeah, I've been riding with Sacramento for years. Who's Vlad Divac? I have no idea who that guy is.
Yeah, no, actually, as a Kings fan, that hits home. No, I do agree though that the U.S. fans can be fickle. I do also want to say that while they can be fickle, it's not necessarily as fickle in the local community. And the reason why is local communities in the U.S., the way they really operate around cities and towns. I look at Vermont and Rhode Island as teams in the USL that get support, and they get a lot of support. And it's because they're the only thing, and they provide 100 to 200 jobs from the region, like into the area, which infuses a lot of money in there come game day. And I think just like you see in Europe, you see these small, fifth division East League teams. I honestly can't even tell you the pyramid in England. Once you get below the National League, I'm out of good luck. But I know it's split even further below that. And it's like when you're talking about the grassroots programs in England, it's a very close comparison to what we're talking about with how communities in the US operate, where they're going to support the team no matter what. It may not be a full stands. It may be like a Friday night high school game type of a level of fanship. So maybe 1,000 kids in the stand, maybe 500. But the people that actually care about the program, care about how it goes, will support it. But you're right. I do think they are very fickle when it comes to winning and losing, though, because nobody's going to show up to a losing team. And I think that's something you see in a lot of ways. And then this is where the US side of the American side of this whole conversation comes in is, well, you're playing soccer. And as sure you've heard this, and I know I've heard this before, and it's still used to this day, and it still irritates me, this phrase, and I apologize if it offends anybody, but grass fairies is used to talk about soccer players. They call them grass fairies. And I hate that term, but that's how Americans look at a lot of soccer.
I've heard that. I've heard soccer is a communistic.
Yeah. It's so the Americanist comes into it where now not only is the American game fighting against its like just growing itself, because it is still new, like I said, 30 years of the MLS. Before that, it was another 20 years through 7 different leagues. And the U.S. as a whole still isn't accepting of the game of soccer, football, whatever you want to call it.
I think honestly, if someone from away, not from the U.S. and even someone from the U.S., if you want a good, accurate depiction on how Americans, and I'm not talking about Americans that love soccer, I'm talking about the Americans, maybe
Average.
they might have a flat top and haircut, how they view this game. If you watch the King of the Hill episode that features Will Ferrell with the soccer team, I think that is by far the most accurate depiction of how Americans view soccer, because it is, and this is coming from a guy that loves King of the Hill. It is as Texas as it can be, but it is one of the hardest episodes for me to watch because they make soccer look so soft, and then honestly, I think the thing is a lot of people from Europe, I think, view that American soccer is soft because it's not, you're not getting the urban kids, to
Yeah.
play this game. And I'm here to tell you that that's not necessarily true. Yes, I think pay to play ruins it for a lot of guys that are really talented, and obviously the options are, well, basketball is cheap, is free. Not looking at AAU, but like high school basketball is free.
Yeah.
American football is free. Even high school
They're
stuff.
relatively free. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, aside from buying your own equipment, but I think, but aside from that, like, you have these other options that are free versus where if you want to play club soccer, and I mean club sports in general, obviously you pay a little bit more, but that's because that's the American norm. Whereas, and then everyone has the story. Well, look, Messi came from where he came from, and now look where he's at. And I get that maybe American soccer is not where it should be, and it's considered, for some reason, soccer is viewed as a
Less than.
wealthy man's sport, which is
Yeah.
not. It's not. But I get that argument. But I'm telling you, like, for my honest opinion, if you want to see at least like the people that were firstborn generation and people that are still that grow up in that soccer culture, come to Houston, go to Chimney Rock. You'll see guys that are playing with heart and wanting to get out, but obviously it's not as attainable for them as it is
Yeah.
in certain regions. But like I said, if you want to see real football, if you want to see physical Latin style football, see the hungry people, go into those urban communities, those urban Latin communities, and you'll see it. So and so like I hate, because basically what we saw from King of the Hill was YMCA soccer. That's what
Yeah.
it was.
And that's the thing is, like, there's such a disconnect in what most people consider American soccer, and probably what you and I both experienced, because I didn't play travel soccer. I played high school, and I was a kid playing with grown men on Sunday league teams. Yes, America does have Sunday league teams as well. We have beer league teams, we have Sunday league teams, and these guys, just like you do in every other country, especially England, they will wear jerseys that they make that look very similar to Real Madrid, and it just says Real Salt Lake. Not obviously it's not Salt Lake. Real insert city here. Like, that's how it goes here. And I was a kid playing with grown men, and some of the soccer I saw played in those Sunday leagues was 10 times better than anything I saw when I was coaching soccer for a USDP team. Like, It's crazy to me how much people look at the USDP organization and think that should be the standard. It's not. It shouldn't be the standard in America. And that's, I know we're getting a little bit further away from the MLS conversation here, but just to cap this off, like, there's a misnomer, and it is the pay-to-play system that is killing it at the end of the day. And USSF is, if they could ever install a president that wasn't business related, they might have a chance to get this improvement. But yeah, there's a lot of things holding the MLS back, and it starts at the beginning, and it really does need to be fixed from the president of the USSF not being, literally, we have business veterans, not soccer veterans, running the U.S. Soccer Federation.
Mm-hmm.
That's just going to make you more money. That's not going to make the program better. And that starts, and they run everything in the U.S. And the USL, what I've seen here with them starting the Division I league is they're going to try to buck that trend. They're trying to fight back against that trend by being the grassroots organization that is Division I, that is your lead division in the country. And I think that's why the MLS has to be worried, because it's not just the MLS versus USL. It is the dichotomy of American soccer that is going to be going against each other, which is the pay-to-play system versus finding these kids in the grassroots organizations and bringing them to the top. And that's what we're going to see. And that's what I'm excited for. I think if I'm looking at the MLS specifically, I want to see them take this challenge on and take it on the nose and see what they can produce this year, because that's the opportunity they have. And if they don't, I'm excited to see what the USL can put out. I personally would love to watch the Las Vegas Lights. I would love to go watch Phoenix FC. I would love to go watch any one of these teams, Switchbacks FC. I'd love to watch any of them. But they're not on TV right now, but they will be.
Yeah, I mean,
and that's if the MLS doesn't perform.
There's going to be some network deals. I mean,
yeah,
I think as
it's
MLS,
all up to the MLS performing this year.
If MLS can't get any of these any more Apple TV prescriptions, if they can't get the subscriptions, man, like, you're gonna see someone, especially if USL can show out when they enter their season, and you're gonna see these other networks coming in like, I think we need to hop in on this right now.
Yeah, I think Dawson DAZN has a deal with them this year. And so they should be nervous.
CBS showed the final. I remember because I was actually watching it.
Which was Switchbacks was in the finals.
Yeah, Switchbacks versus Rhode Island, which was cool. Kind of like a weird full circle moment in some sense, because if you guys don't know, I actually I was going to be the equipment manager for Rhode Island, but then they only wanted to pay me $36,000 a year to live in Rhode Island, and Rhode Island's expensive.
That's the hard part too. Is like, as an equipment manager in the U.S. playing or even for an MLS team, you're still not getting paid the equivalent to an equipment manager at a championship team or even a League Two team in England. You know, like, that's the hard part is to grow this game. It's not just the players. We have to talk organizationally. And I think that's what the USL is putting the money where the mouth is and saying, all right, we're going to see if we can try to do this. And the MLS just has to figure it out.